Hey there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Local Influencers Podcast. I'm your host, Abel, and on today's podcast, I am joined by a very, very special person. I am so excited to have this person on. I feel like I say that every week. However, it's like every week I am mind blown by the level of talent and people that are in the Coastal Bend. So today I have Ashley, aka Arson Nick. And Arson Nick, I'm going to refer to you as from your drag name right now, is one of the only, very few local drag kings, at least that I'm aware of. And so we're going to kind of get into your story. And yeah, I'm so excited to have you because I've had some people that are in the drag in entertainment business, but obviously they're all kind of like female representing or they represent female, and so I'm excited to have you as the first drag king on the local influencer. So welcome, Ashley or Arson Nick.
So thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. Like you already mentioned, I am the only king in the area that I'm aware of. It has been just such a wonderful experience getting into drag for the first time. I just started recently here in June of this year,
Mm,
and I had just turned 19 when I started officially. So I'm still very young. I'm probably the youngest that you'll run into in like these local shows. um, there has been an incredible opportunity to meet so many wonderful people. I've met so many of the local queens already, and I look forward to doing more. I actually have a show tonight where I'm going to be um, performing and competing for the title of Newcomer of the Year. So we're already making waves. We're getting in there.
yes, yeah, that's exciting. Well, good luck. So let's kind of start and to see what made you want to enter the world of drag. Drag is a very competitive. It could be I from what I've heard, I've known a lot of local queens. I've heard a mixed review, but mainly good things here locally, at least between the queens, like the camaraderie between the queens here and just in the drag artists here. But what made you want to enter the world of drag and then become a drag king?
I'd actually been doing drag for a very long time, unofficially, ever since I was in middle school. So I would be doing like, the whatever cheap costumes that I could put together myself, I would make that and I would start practicing with drag. So when I officially started to get in there, I wanted to do it when I went to my first Pride. When I went in Kingsville, actually, the first Kingsville Pride, Isis Paris York was performing and she was the hostess. She called me out and she said she really liked me. And that was the moment I really wanted to get in there and I wanted to do it. So I
That's
was
awesome.
17 and I just started
Wow.
doing it this. Yeah, so she actually put me on for my first show, and that was just like a really full circle experience for me. Like that was a long time coming.
Cool. And what is it about drag and drag culture that you like and that keeps you motivated and excited about it?
I really just love the fans, like the energy that they give me. I love to rewatch my videos just to see how their reactions are because I get so much positive feedback. But the real true driving force for me is that there is so much underrepresentation for women in drag. There is no place for us. If you go looking for costumes or for any kind of resources or videos, you won't find it because there's no place for us yet. And I really wanted to like break that glass ceiling, especially in this small area where there's nobody else, and really pave the way for future artists. Because there's been some crazy people that have actually threatened me for being a woman in drag. It's insane.
Yeah, that is wild. It's like the like LGBTQ like I community is like already just a segment of the community, and then within our own like everyone's community, it's like there's hatred in that community, and it's always mind blowing, and then it's always like the out like people that don't understand drag in general and give everyone a hard time, and I'm just like, let people live their best life. It's like it blows my mind people are still, well, I guess I shouldn't be, but but I guess it blows my mind people just not in these days and age, like the day and ages where it's just like everyone should be able to live their life however and they please. And yeah, and so uh as far as like the, like you said, there really isn't a, like I said, I know maybe a couple of drag kings, or at least like male impersonators. Like some people call it drag king, some like to say like male impersonating. Like drag artists from like Houston area because I used to live there. And so, but like you said, I think you are the only one that I've seen here, at least, or have heard of. And so, going into, like I said, going into the drag culture here, thankfully you were, you had this, I think you said Isis was one of the ones that kind of like put you on your first show, and you had that support. um what was, were you nervous, were you scared, or were you just like jumping in and said like the hell with it?
A little bit of both, to be completely honest, because I remember when I first got the flyer for my very first show and I posted it to my Instagram, I actually got a crazed fan. One of my crazed fans from before, she was commenting like, "You look so out of place," or "You don't belong in drag." Drag queens are supposed to be glamorous. Like men aren't in drag. I quote, "They're better, they're prettier, they're funnier. Like there's no place for you." I'm like, like they full on attacked me.
Wow,
So, and that was
that's
before I even got to perform. It was insane.
that is wild. It's like kind of like female comedians, I think, have a hard time in the comedy world because it's always like it's like such a male dominated world where it's like the males do
Yes.
better no matter what, and it's like, well, no, not really, because some of my favorite comedians are actually females because I don't like when someone's trying very hard to make me laugh. So it's like a hard time for me to enjoy like a comedy, like a comedian or a comedy show, because I don't like it when I know someone's intent is to make me laugh. And a lot of times the female ones are the ones that I'm laughing at because it's like comes off so naturally because they're telling stories about their crazy ass husbands or significant others. So like I don't know. It's like for someone to say you don't have a place in there, I'm like, well, it's wild. Do you
I
think
was like, guys, what
show
are you
you're like, "Wait, give me a second, like, it's a flyer, like, let me perform first."
real? Yeah.
So I actually have a podcast where I talk about, drag, and it's mainly about RuPaul's Drag Race, and I do recaps on the RuPaul's Drag Race. Do you think shows like RuPaul's Drag Race, I think now they're being more open-minded. I know that the UK version just had their first AFAB queen, uh,
Mhm.
but she's still impersonating queen. She's just being like in drag, so drag is like extra, right? Do you think that shows like that, even maybe like Dragula and stuff like that? Do you think that those kind of add to the negative thoughts of people, like of you maybe entering the drag scene? Because in drag, like if you look at RuPaul's Drag Race, a lot of the queens, like a lot of the critiques and stuff, and something I've criticized on my podcast about that show is like they're always like, you're not fishy enough. And for people that don't know, fishy is like fishy
Yes.
people that don't know, fishy is like, or they'll say you're not like giving cunt, or you're not giving, that means like you're not you're not impersonating, you're not pretty enough, basically was what they're saying. So do you think that shows like that kind of make it harder for you? And then I don't know if you even watch it or if you've heard of it, but do you think that they, like I said, they are slowly making progress? So what are your thoughts just in that in general?
I'm so glad you asked because I literally tell people all the time that it's great that we're getting more appreciation in the drag community, but at the same time it's very counterproductive because so many people will say, "Oh, I love drag shows." And I'm just like, "Okay, cool. Like do you support your local queens?" And they say, "No, I only watch RuPaul." So it creates this over the top like caricature of what a drag queen is, and truthfully speaking, you're not going to find that at a local show, especially around here. You have like lower budget queens, you have smaller places to work with. We're not spending thousands of dollars for designers to make our costumes. We're making them ourselves a lot of the times. And you can really see the internalized misogyny when a woman enters like a drag race. Like, I don't know if you've seen Dragula, where Sigourney Beaver is like being dragged just for being a woman. Like, you can tell like the queens are mad at her.
I've heard. I haven't seen Dragula. It's just like there's just nothing against it. I've tried watching it. I'm not like I've heard, but I did hear about all of this controversy happening. So yes,
Yes.
and so
It's
yeah,
ridiculous.
a lot of the times people don't realize, like, I've met a lot of the RuPaul's Drag Race girls, and because I've gone to like drag con, like the conventions and stuff. A lot of them people don't realize that some of their favorite queens are some of the nastiest, rudest, ugliest people in real life that I've ever met, and I actually am going to be sharing that on my future episodes. And then some of them are the nicest, most caring, loving, and they accept anyone with open arms. And it's just like they don't, and they also share their stories. A lot of like the most popular queens share their stories about like we were broke one time. Like the one of the most famous queens is Shangela, and she came from Paris, Texas, and she was like, I was broke one time, and I started with like they all are very like advocates for supporting like local queens and kings in your case. What is one of the besides the obvious of like you said like the misogyny and stuff, what is one of the toughest things that you think that you've tried or had to overcome entering the drag scene here in the coastal bend area?
I think that, as simple as it sounds, is really my size. Because when you walk into a room with a bunch of drag queens, they're like 7 feet tall. They're
Yeah.
humongous. They're usually like big guys too, so they take up like they are like goddesses. And I'm only 5'1". So even with my foot tall mohawk and my big ass boots, like they will literally look down at me and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, Arson, you're so cute," and they'll pick me up. Like this
Oh
has happened
no.
on multiple occasions. Or even the light tech will be like, "Oh, Arson, you were so good, but I had a hard time like keeping the light on you because you were so little." I'm just like, I'm trying to be bigger. It's difficult, but we're
Wow.
working with it. I work with my size now. Or recently, I came out of a box. I got buried, and I came out of a box at a drag show. No, none of the bigger queens could have done that because they're not as little as I. So we're working with what we got.
Yeah, the element of surprise. Talk about a reveal. I love a good reveal.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And so
Credit card for
whenever
like 3 days.
yeah. So whenever you are going to a show and people expect a lot of the times, like if I hear the word drag, I automatically think drag queens. I'm gonna see drag queens. And what like you said, you do have fans and you have a good following on social media. And when you come go to these events and stuff, how do you get nervous? Do you get like, "Oh my god," or are you just like, "Again, the hell with it. I'm gonna do what I do because I love this." Like, what keeps you motivated to go to these shows when, like I said, a lot of times when people are like, "Let's go to a drag show," they're expecting these like like glamazons. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and then we have King Arson over here. Like I'm sorry, Arson Nick, King Arson. I don't know where I got that from. Arson Nick, sorry. Um,
Yeah, that's on my social medias. That's that's
yeah,
probably where you got.
yeah, so yeah, so like how do you kind of hype yourself up for that?
You really did paint a picture there. Because you're exactly right. When people come to see a drag show, they're thinking about seeing glamorous women, and they do. You will 100% see beautiful performers. Everyone from Frankie to Miss Matt. Like we got so many good people going, and what really hypes me up is knowing that I'm the oddball, but that means that I can do whatever I want. Like no one is expecting a drag king. No one knows what a drag king is going to do. A lot of the times, no one's even heard of one. So I can come out of a box covered in dirt, or I could have black liquid coming out of my mouth, and no one knows what to make of it. I can do what I want. That's what's fun. And people say that was refreshing. I'm like, oh, thank you. I tried hard. It's
Yeah.
it's rewarding.
Yeah, that's cool. And I like you're right. You do get to kind of it's like the element of surprise. You have that on your side, right? Like you have that because there's some queens and not really necessarily just local queens that it's like they do the same numbers over and over, or you can kind of know what to expect from them. And with drag king, it's gonna be like, oh wow, this is new. Like I'm interested. And whenever I saw that we were gonna have you on the podcast, I was like, hell yeah. Like a
Oh,
drag king, like this is what I need in my life. And so, I know that you said that you started young. I think you said at 17, and that you'd been
Yeah.
doing it. You've been kind of dressing up and doing all these things. What what attracts you to the world of drag though? Like, what is it about it that you're like, you know what? Like, this is who I am. Because you can have like everyone has a style, right? Everyone dresses every day to go out to the post office and to have dinner, and so everyone dresses up in a certain way. But what made you like really? What attracted you? Like, I'm trying to just kind of get to the root of like, you know what, I want to be a performer. Do you have a background in like entertaining and performing it, or was it just like the whole artistry part of it?
I actually do have a very short background of entertainment. Back in high school, I was like a color guard captain. So, if you see me at a show, you'll probably see me spinning a baton. That's where that came from. But I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. So instead of going out making friends or having parties, I would be indoors learning how to hone in on my art skills. So I'm pretty well rounded in that sense. I can sew, I can do videos, and seeing drag, I was like, oh, that's like all of my hobbies combined into one, and I get to perform on top of that. It sounds like my kind of party. Oh,
Uh,
I love it.
you definitely you definitely should try out for a drag race because that would be one hell of a mix up. So that would
Oh
shake it up.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Especially if you know how to sew. One of my biggest pet peeves is when a drag queen goes on, because like I say, drag queen because they've been mainly queens on the show of RuPaul's Drag Race. One of my biggest pet peeves is like these girls, like, or I say, okay, it's hard for me because I say girls, but it's because they're in drag. That's what they refer to themselves as in
No, no,
drag.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
yeah. I get you.
just for the listeners out there, uh, these girls get on the show and they're like, I don't know how to sew. I'm like, how in the
Genuine.
like what? Hold on, wait a minute. You
Where,
like by
where's that?
now we are in season 375, and you don't know how to sew, and you applied
I
for the
know.
show. Oh my god! And then or a
Throw
queen
me
that's
to
like
the
I'm
sewing
not,
class.
or a queen that's like I'm not that great at makeup. I'm like, what? That's your one job is to like make an illusion of some kind, whether you're doing a drag king illusion or a drag queen illusion. In the drag queen world, whenever they're doing like a more male dominant thing, they call it like a butch queen or like a butchier look. I hate that word, but that is what they've had like challenges and stuff with that. And so have would I don't know if I'm not saying have you ever considered it, but would something like that interest you? Not necessarily RuPaul's Drag Race, but being on some kind of competition show. It's not something I've asked my other drag artists on the show, but is that something that you would like consider in the future? Is that something that you'd entertain, like being some kind of whether it's Dragula and kind of? I think that experience in general would help elevate someone. But is that something that you maybe have considered or would consider?
Oh hell yeah, absolutely. As soon as I really started to get into my costumes, I thought, oh, I want to audition for something. Literally the day after my first show, I found out about Camp Wanakiki, and I was like, hey girl, I want to audition for that. So when I turn 21, you can expect for me to audition for some shows.
Awesome. And so here locally, what would you say is the scene, like the drag scene? Would you say that you've been? I know that you got hate on the flyers from crazy people on the internet, which I always like shout them out. Like on my other podcasts, I got hate on some of my other podcasts, and I'll literally read their social media handles so the whole world knows who they are. But so um, I know, like you said, you got hate from some crazy people online. But what was the? And you don't have to say names. I'm not trying to start no drama, girl. But uh, what was the queen, like the local queens, the local drag artists, what was their reception to you? I know that you said you did have someone out there that who believed in you, and then you've met a couple other queens and they were very welcoming, but overall, what has your experience been like here in the coastal bend?
From personal experience working with queens that are more established, like they really did welcome me with open arms. They were like, "Oh, there's a king here. Like I haven't worked with a king before. Like let's get you a spot. Like let's see what you do. Let's try you out, and if we like you, then we'll give you another show." And they did, and it was fantastic. Like I've really grown attached to a few of them because they've just been like, "Oh, this is my son. This is my son." You know,
I
you're
love that.
they love me. They're so sweet. I love them so much. They're like my tias.
Yeah.
I love them.
I love it. So let's say there's a listener out there, right? And they are interested in becoming a drag king or a drag artist, a drag queen, and they want to enter the drag world. What are just a couple of pieces of advice that you'd give someone who is interested, but they're kind of scared to make that leap and jump into it?
My biggest piece of advice is to unapologetically just be yourself, because in the world of drag, you're going to find a lot of glamazons. They're all going to have like really similar vibes. So you really want to stick out. If you want to do drag, have something unique that only you can do and that you enjoy doing, because you want to bring something new to the table so people will remember you. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Just do it. No one cares. If you don't care, they can't shade on you. Period.
There you go. And that's it. Period. Just like end it like that. There you go. I love that. So now is the time of the podcast where you get to plug all of your social media handles, any websites, if you have merch. Now is the time to plug any and all things. So where can people find you and where do you want to send people?
I usually post things on my Instagram. I'm most active on there. It's at king_Arson Nick. And I think I have my link tree on there, so you can find all of my social medias through there. I do have a shop. You know, catch me at the shows. I will be getting merch very, very soon.
Awesome. And there is one last thing, and I should have started with this question, but I'm gonna ask now. How did your drag king name come up, Arson Nick? Because I was like saying it slowly. I was like Arson Nick, Arson Nick, huh? And then I was like, oh, like it clicked to me. So how, real before we end, how did that name come up?
I was actually talking about poison because I like watching true crime, and I said it kind of slow, and I'm like, oh, it's got two syllables. It could be a drag name. So that's how that came out.
I love a good true crime. That's good. It's awesome. I was just like, I was wondering, and then that's why earlier I said King Arsenic because I was basically reading your Instagram handle. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I am so happy about the things that you're doing here in the Coastal Bend and inspiring others to be themselves. And hopefully, we will here, at least in the Coastal Bend, start to see a rise in drag kings. If you're out there listening, do it. Just go out there and do it. Someone will
Period.
befriend you. People will open. I have interviewed, like you said, Miss Matt. I know a few other local queens, and now Arson Nick, and everyone here is just here. We'll welcome you with open arms. So please reach out to someone and definitely just. I will. I think I've said it like on 3 podcasts this season. If you're afraid to do something, you're heading in the right direction. So
Yes. Love
so
that.
again, thank you so much again for your time. Keep being you. I appreciate you, and I definitely cannot wait to make it out. My schedule right now is a little crazy because I work retail, and so my life is like a disaster at this moment. But I cannot wait till I can be at one of your shows. I'm gonna be there. Your loudest supporter. I'm so happy and thrilled to
Aw.
have you here.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to talk to you, and I really look forward to meeting you in person.
For sure. Thank you so much. And to all of the listeners out there, wherever you are listening, please head out into your community, make a positive change, and do something good. We will talk next time. Thank you guys.